Hello everyone, welcome to the ADILE project and the EASPD Knowledge Café on developing accessible online learning platforms for people with disabilities. Today we'll be talking about the ADILE project, the results of the ADILE accessible learning platform, as well as accessible online distance learning from various perspectives. We'll have a panel with learners, educators, web developers, and service providers. And then we'll finish with a session on breakout rooms where you'll be able to explore and discover different platforms, the EASPD Knowledge Hub. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I'll pass the introduction on to Enrica, who can continue introducing this event.
Yes, thank you, Catherine. I'll try to share my screen first of all before starting. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? So I'm going to presentation mode. So good afternoon, first of all, and welcome to the event sponsored by EASPD, whom I thank for hosting us. And I thank you all for attending this meeting this afternoon. I am Enrica Cappadonna, Project Coordinator for Cooperativa Controvento, cooperativa who works and is based in Catania, in Sicily, mainly working with intellectual disabilities, Down syndrome people and people with autism spectrum disorder. Cooperativa Controvento is the project leader and coordinator for the ADILE project, which is the focus of this meeting. I will say no more and go straight to the presentation of a general background of the project. ADILE is a 2-year European Commission co-funded project involving an international partnership. Partners organizations are beyond the Italian organization Controvento. There's another Italian organization, Base 3, EASPD, based in Brussels, but with a European and international site, INDF from Ireland, Impulse Igualdad from Spain, and SEDA from Poland. I'm here today to give you a general overview on how the idea that inspired the ADILE project came about. ADILE all started from the considerations that emerged during the COVID period, a time actually when the whole world came to a standstill. The COVID pandemic has amplified barriers and inequalities, and especially people with disabilities have suffered from isolation due to social distancing rules. Before of being an issue and a problem that can be solved at a European level, it was actually a local necessity. Indeed, it was necessary for us as educators to keep curiosity and education alive for people with intellectual disabilities and nurture their social relationship in the meantime. During and throughout the years, we have daily centers during which we carry out in-presence workshop. But at that time, they were held in presence, and then when the COVID arrives, they have been suspended at the beginning and then transformed into online workshops, especially after a request of a parent, of a mom, who was concerned for his child that might take a step backwards in terms of education. So while the whole world demonstrated resistance and reluctance towards online learning, our users who were experimenting this model actually testified the positive sides of this type of learning. And then we realized that this can be an issue, not only a local issue, but can be addressed actually as a it was shareable and also addressable problem at a European level. The general objective of the ADILE project, indeed, is to promote the empowerment and social inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities by promoting the accessibility of ICT tools for distance learning, contributing in parallel to the removal of social barriers and obstacles through learning activities aimed at promoting civic education in a logic of inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities. The three main specific objectives are the definition of an online educational pathways for people with disabilities, specifically focused on the acquisition of knowledge, skills, abilities, aimed at improving autonomy in the field of active citizenship, media and literacy, democratic values, and the exercise of rights and their rights. The second specific objective is the development of an accessible online educational platform dedicated to people with disabilities in an accessible language in order to foster equal opportunities for distance learning. And the third specific objective is the definition of a European distance learning model for people with disabilities. The three main results of the ADILE project are the ADILE toolkit, the ADILE educational platform, and the ADILE guidelines that will be explored more in deeply by the other presenters of this during this meeting. So before moving on, I will introduce the moderator of the presentations that will take place this afternoon, Dr. Irene Morici, project manager and founder of Base3. And I thank you.
Thanks a lot, Enrica, for this very general overview of the project, the background, and the main objectives that we try to reach during the project lifetime. During this panel, we will basically give a presentation of the three main results that Enrica has just introduced. So the toolkit, the platform, and the transferability guidelines. Just a very general comment on that. You can find all these three outputs, tangible results of the project in our website, www.adileproject.eu. And you can find, of course, all the resources and all the results in English, but also in Italian, Polish, and Spanish. So this is a quite interesting and useful detail to share with all of you today. So we can start with the first result of the project, toolkit addressed to people with intellectual disability. And of course, all the 6 partners of the project contributed to these toolkits. But this first output was led by Impulsa Igualdad, which is a Spanish organization based in Madrid, but there are different branches and offices across Spain. So a Spanish no-profit organization that runs both local, national, and international activities for promoting social inclusion of people with intellectual and physical disability. Today we have with us Francesca D'Adomo, one of the project managers of Impulsa Igualdad, who work on the project. So I will leave the floor to Francesca to present the first project result of the project.
Thank you very much, Irene, for introducing Impulsa Igualdad. My name is Francesca from the NGO Impulsa Igualdad, and as Irene mentioned, Impulsa Igualdad was the leader of the first project results of the project. But of course, this ADILE toolkit is the effort of all the partners working in the project. I will share my screen. So the goal of this first result was to establish an online education pathway, for adult people with intellectual disability. with a specific focus on acquiring all the knowledge and skills to improve the autonomy of people with intellectual disabilities in different fields. We conducted field research and a desk research in all the countries of the consortium. And after conducting this field research and desk research and compiling all the findings in a research report that is also available online, we identified 4 different areas, 4 different fields that are also the main area of our ADILE toolkit: digital competence, learning to learn, social and civic competence, and cultural awareness. For each of these areas, we developed, of course, together with all the consortium, 3 modules. So for a total of 12 modules. ADILE toolkit has 12 modules. This toolkit is an accessible document that was developed to support the individual with intellectual disability during the training course, because in the framework of the first results, we also developed the modules for the training course that have been uploaded in the platform. And this helps, this document should help the learners to understand, to fully understand of the modules and make the most of the course. It has been implemented with really successful results in Spain, Italy, Poland, Ireland, and Belgium. The training toolkit is accessible. It uses simplified language, so it has simple words, short sentences, and the words are in bold. Also, the text is accompanied by pictograms to make it easier to understand and also accessible for all. And also the toolkit is made following the guidelines for achieving full cognitive accessibility. Sorry, I want to make... Okay. So this cognitive accessibility is in terms, of course, of accessible distance learning. The toolkit also has an important section that is how to use the toolkit, that it supports any doubt that may arise for adult people with intellectual disability when taking the training course. Because again, the purpose of this document is just to assist the student while they are developing the training course, and they should have it open while they are taking the training course. We also developed another document that are the guidelines for educators. The objective of this document is to help the educators when working with the participants, because our participants, adult people with intellectual disability, can take the training course in the platform by themselves, but they can also be helped and accompanied by educators, by their educators. That's why we wanted to make this extra document in order to guide as well the educators that are helping the people with disabilities, intellectual disabilities, that are making the training course. It has an introduction about the ADILE project, a small summary of each module, and it also has some tips directed to the educators with some extra resources in case they want to make some extra reading. These are some of the sections of the guidelines for educators.
Sorry, Francesca, can you share these slides, because we can only see the first page of your presentation of the ADILE toolkit.
Okay, sorry. Okay, can you see now the slide?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
sorry. Yes, so these are the section of the guidelines for educators, some tips for the educators, and also some extra resources, extra reading that they might need or they might want to experience. And the training toolkit, again, the training toolkit, but as well the guidelines for educators are available in the adileproject.eu in English, Italian, Spanish, and Polish. And as well, the research report is also available in English language in the website of the project in the framework of Project Results 1. So in case you have any question, you can ask me now. You can also email me and my colleague Gloria Noguera, that also was working on this project results, to our email address. And if you don't have any other question, I will pass the floor to Irene.
Thanks a lot, Francesca, for this short but effective presentation of the toolkit and guidelines. If any participants have any question, you can also use the chat box, or if not, of course, you can always use the email addresses provided by Francesca. So thanks a lot, Francesca. We can now move to the second project result, the platform. All the partners again contributed to the development and update of the platform, but this particular result has been led by Base3, an Italian social enterprise focused on social innovation and also on the development of digital solution, for example, educational platform and apps for people with intellectual disability. And today, my colleague Elena Volterrani, project manager for this project, will give you an introduction of this accessible platform that we have developed throughout the project.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen correctly? So I'm Elena, and I work for Base3. Base3 was the leader of this second result of the ADILE project. This accessible online educational platform dedicated to people with intellectual disabilities represents the central node of the project, and its main goal is to foster equal opportunities for distance learning. Here, there are some steps that led to the development and the creation of the platform. First of all, we started with the adaptation of the training materials produced in the toolkit that Francesca has already presented, and in order to adapt it for the training course of the platform. So each partner translated and adapted the content, taking account the needs of the participants and the specific issues of each country. Concerning the technical structure of the platform, we started from an initial open source platform, and then we modify it to make it accessible, considering aspects such as, for example, the font, the use of colors, and the graphic layout. After the creation of the materials of the 12 modules of the platform, and after the creation of the technical structure, we implemented a pilot action in each country project partner. So in Italy, Spain, Poland, and Ireland. And for the pilot action, we involved around 60 participants, of which over 40 adults with intellectual disabilities and around 16 educators. So in each country, people with intellectual disabilities had the possibility to test the platform, the modules of the platform, in order to see if if they can increase their digital skills. And on the other hand, educators were able to share their feedbacks, their thoughts on how the platform could be better used as a learning tool, accessible learning tool. Moreover, the accessible and the intuitive structure of the platform enable partner organizations to continue to use it also after the end of the project, because it's possible to include other materials, other content, and different topics. Here we can see the main strengths of the ADILE platform. As I said before, it's an intuitive and accessible platform with an accessible language. It's innovative because since now there is no free and effective digital tools for distance learning dedicated to people with intellectual disability. And it is characterized by its transferability, because any stakeholder, any organization working in the field of disabilities can use it in a free and easy way. Here, there are the main topic of the modules of the platform. There are just few examples. For example, the use of email. In the second area, for example, it's possible to understand a text or a news. Then there are topics such as civic education, how to understand voting, heritage, geography, but these are only few examples. In addition, in each modules, apart the theoretical part, users can find also interactive games, practical activities, and different kind of exercise and quizzes. Here there are some examples. The testing process was very important because thanks to this process, project partners could work on the final development of the platform thanks to the feedback and the suggestion provided by both educators and users. And we modified the platform in order to make it more accessible. And in addition, the testing process led to the third and final result of the ADILE project, the ADILE guidelines that I think now Catherine will present. Here there is the QR code, and if you want, you can link directly to this tool, the platform. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot, Elena. I can see that we have a question about the platform. When you say platform, do you refer to the learning management system itself or the curriculum? I can try to answer to this question, Janina. We do refer to the platform, so an online platform where all the content is, let's say, stored. And Elena has just given a presentation from, let's say, a theoretical point of view. Later on, together with our colleague Luca, you will have the chance to explore this platform, so this online educational platform. So can different content be uploaded on it? Yes, this is the added value of the platform, Janina. The idea is that we provide platform with, let's say, this online tool. But the main added value of this platform is that each organization is free to upload content and to upload different kind of resources. And this is, I think, the most important thing also in terms of sustainability of the project at the platform itself. And later on with Luca, you will see how you can manage and update this platform. Okay, so we can now move to the third project result, the transferability guidelines. And in this case, EASPD was the leader of this output. I think that all participants are quite familiar with EASPD, but just a few lines about the organization. Is a European NGO network, representative organization across Europe and across disabilities. And today, Catherine will give general overview of the guidelines and recommendations that we have produced at the end of this project. So please, Catherine.
Okay, thank you, Irene. So
I'll brief you. Sorry, it's in presentation mode, so I can see like the notes section and things like that, and the next slide coming up.
Ah, okay.
If you have a second screen, maybe unplug it or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is it okay now?
Perfect.
Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly go over the guidelines and recommendations for the establishment of a European model for accessible distance learning for people with intellectual disabilities. I'll do it very briefly. I know the title is long, but this was the result of 3 stages. So we developed the guidelines based on the pilot action, the analysis of the pilot action, and then the guidelines. So as Elena already said, the pilot action took place in 4 countries and was led by the project partner organizations in each of the countries. And it was really interesting because we got 2 user perspectives. So one is from the learners with intellectual disabilities who completed the modules on the ADILE platform. So they tested the accessibility of the user interface, the usability and the transferability of that. And then from the educators, we got feedback on the back end of the platform, where they essentially modified all the content. They could see how usable it was and how accessible it was for teachers and educators of varying digital capabilities. And in total, we had 16 educators, 43 learners, and 105 hours of training. And from that, we did an analysis, which was produced in the framework of the guidelines. And this involved giving out 2 surveys, one for the educators to complete and one for the learners to complete in easy to read, and with the support of an educator as well. And this assessed the effectiveness of the training methodology from ADILE, the platform, and the usability of the platform, as well as the general improvements that can be made to distance learning and to make it more accessible. And from both of them, including our own desk research, we produced policy recommendations and guidelines for the establishment of a European model for accessible distance learning, specifically for people with intellectual disabilities. So just as a quick overview of the document, we first began with the strengths and possibilities of accessible distance learning. So what can be made possible for everyone in society when distance learning is genuinely accessible and caters to everyone from varying capabilities when it comes to digital skills and educational opportunities. And then we identified 4 key areas that pose major challenges to achieving accessible distance learning on a national and European level. And depending on what key area we were looking at, we proposed recommendations and potential solutions on both levels to overcome the main challenges in each key area. I will now provide the key areas that we identified. So the first one was funding and legal frameworks. And then there was training, upskilling and working conditions, diversity of educational opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities. And also there was a problem with the standardization of accessible distance learning. And under these 4 main areas, we identified more key challenges in each area. So for example, under diversifying educational opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities, a major challenge was that there are dominant assumptions and stereotypes about people with intellectual disabilities and their digital skills that often result in them being perceived as, one, who generalized group with the same educational and digital needs. So individual strengths, desires, needs on an educational and digital level were not catered to for the most part. And in the pilot action, we saw that both learners and educators reported huge differences in their abilities, needs, and educational desires. And because of that, current content within accessible distance learning cannot satisfy those wants and needs, which is a major issue. And examples of the national recommendations and European recommendations that we provided were that we should diversify on a national level within the competency of the state. They should diversify the educational content available to meet the individual needs and desires of people with intellectual disabilities. This could mean larger variety of subjects, of topics, and also levels of difficulty, because the levels of difficulty is one main area that is assumed for people with intellectual disabilities who want to pursue education. And in the pilot action, we saw varying levels of capabilities, and also more funding from national and local governments to support local training opportunities in digital skills for people with intellectual disabilities, as well as their families, because this can enhance their independence in using distance learning platforms and allow them to explore more educational opportunities by themselves. And within the competency on a European level, we propose to develop EU guidelines for member states on accessible distance learning that take into account the diversity of interests and skills of people with intellectual disabilities. And other national recommendations, that this is like a list, but I won't go into it. I think we're a bit short of time, but you can have a look later by yourselves. These address different key areas and different challenges. And thank you. These are the links to the pilot action analysis report, which form the basis of the guidelines, of which we have two different versions. There's a long version, and then there's also a shorter one where you don't have to read too much text and you just get the main bullet points. And there are my contact details if you have any questions and want to discuss this further. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Catherine. And just an invitation before wrapping up this first panel. So we encourage all participants to have a look at the project website where you can find all the resources, and to have a look at these 3 project results, and then to use them to adapt to your own context, considering your specific target group, so educators, people with intellectual disability, to your organization in general, and to make the most of these resources. So thanks a lot, everyone, for attending this first session. I think I will now leave the floor to Catherine again as moderator for this second panel. And thanks a lot.
Okay, can everyone see my screen and everything? Okay, cool. So apologies that Renaud couldn't make it. He couldn't make it to this panel, so I'll be moderating. And for this panel, we'll be going through the experiences of developing online platforms for people with intellectual disabilities. We'll be exploring many different perspectives on developing these platforms, on using these platforms, focusing on themes of co-production and co-design, the technical approaches, so working with web developers and speaking on more the technical aspects of accessible learning platforms, as well as disability rights and why is it so important for accessible online learning to be accessible for people with intellectual disabilities. We'll also hear from different organizations about their own platforms and see how they do things from their end. But in terms of accessibility, I'd like to just introduce very quickly introduce one of like a one-stop shop for accessibility. It's called Accessible Centre EU, which you might find very useful in your work, and just to find any resources that you would want to use in developing a platform, or even in many different key areas of life, such as built environments, transport, information, technology, communication, to ensure the participation of people with disabilities in all areas of life on an equal basis with others. So yeah, it's one of the flagship initiatives proposed by the European Commission strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities. And it's just a great one-stop shop for all things accessibility. And if you want to get involved, those are the details. We'll also send this PowerPoint around. So that's just a very nice resource to have and to take away from this panel. Okay, so back to the panel. Firstly, we have Hazel Nicol, who's a researcher, consultant and trainer at Instruction and Formation. And she'll be presenting the pilot action from their organization and the feedback from learners and educators on their end. So I'll just like to give the floor to Hazel.
Thank you very much, Kat. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and good afternoon from Ireland. My name is Hazel, and I work with INF. INF is an education and training organisation from Dublin, Ireland. We work on several areas, including entrepreneurship, youth, sports, personal development, schools, language acquisition, and inclusivity and diversity and rural development. So we were working with Windmill Centre, the Windmill Therapeutic Centre in Wexford. So they were our wonderful educators and students who worked on this pilot action of this course. So it was very interesting. We got extensive feedback from our educators and our students about the course, about the pilot action and of testing the course. So everybody really enjoyed testing it, but as Kat had said, that there was many different abilities, and what everyone's most excited about coming from the course is that they can develop their own course, that they can use this platform now to put topics on. So when testing it, some topics were easy for some people and not so easy for other people with the different modules that were created. But what everybody is really excited about is that they can use this to now create their own modules. So for example, they're doing a cookery course. So they will now design and develop that course and use the ADILE platform to put their cookery course on as an online module. And they have many other plans and ideas to use this. So it was very interesting, the pilot action. Lots of things came up. Our educators travelled to Madrid for the training week, and there was lots of great discussions there, and they gave feedback there about it. Our educators have a background in social care and technology, so they were really great people to be involved in the testing of the pilot action. So lots of things came up during the training and during the pilot action, and there was lots of great feedback about it. There was everything that was in it had been any of the issues that came up during it. The majority of them were added and changed and adapted and fixed. So the pilot action was really, really beneficial because our educators and students, they saw lots of things that could be improved, and they were improved, which was great. So it was really useful, the pilot action. So the majority of the things that were flagged were included and changed, and I suppose the one side of it, but everyone was in agreement that it wasn't possible, was to have an audio option. So moving forward in the future, obviously that would be a super option to having it. But it has so much potential for all these courses to be put on, which is what our educators are really looking forward to getting started and putting their own courses now onto it. So does anybody have any questions?
I think maybe we could show the videos from the learners and educators directly so we can hear from them.
Yeah, these are, thank you, Katya. These are videos from, so this is Geraldine, our wonderful educator in Windmill Therapeutic Centre, who was fantastic in the pilot actions and with all of her feedback and as an educator, and she's just been fantastic with this project. So big thank you to Geraldine, who couldn't be with us here for this part, but will be watching the video in repeat. So thank you all to Geraldine, and thank you to everyone in Windmill Therapeutic Centre. You were all fantastic. Thank you.
What are the main takeaways for you from the pilot action?
What are the main takeaways? Okay. I think it's a really good platform. I think it has great potential going forward to help us to deliver the work that we do every day and to support the people we support. It's also been a great opportunity to be involved with other people across Europe, not necessarily in the social care sector like myself, but in the tech industry. There's a lot of people out there that have really great ideas of how to help people who have an intellectual disability to have a better life and to make things more accessible for them. So I would really look forward to linking in with the likes of INF and the other companies going forward for any opportunities like this again to help people to increase their independence and have a better life.
Thank you very much.
Hi Rachel, thanks for agreeing to do the interview.
Sorry, do you want to introduce Rachel or should I play?
Oh, yes, sorry, this is Rachel, one of the students. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi Rachel, thanks for agreeing to do the interview with me. I'm going to start then, if that's okay.
Okay.
So question 1, what does accessible distance mean to you? So what does it mean to you to be able to learn online?
I think we were helping people with disabilities.
Okay, and why is that important, Rachel?
Oh, yeah. Well, if another pandemic was about to hit, yeah.
So if another pandemic was to hit, what could you do?
Yeah, it really helped for kids who can't even go to school.
You're right, it would be helpful for people that can't even go into school. So are you suggesting that maybe they could use something like this if they had to stay at home to learn?
Oh, yes.
Good idea.
Thank you very much. That was Rachel just saying, yeah, that if another pandemic hits, that like something like this would be wonderful. That if people can't go to school or can't go to their centres, that everyone can still learn. So, yeah, so thank you to Rachel, one of our wonderful students.
Thank you so much, Hazel.
Thank you.
I'll leave the questions at the end. I'll compile them and then I'll ask the different panelists. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Hazel. And now we will give the floor to Tony Davis and Sarah Boland from the St. John of God community. And would you like to introduce yourselves, your organization, and give us a presentation?
Hello, my name is Tony Davis. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm one of the co-designers for Ways to Connect. I'm sorry Patrick can't be here today, but he is sick.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Boland. I'm the Assistive Technology Facilitator at St. John of God Liffey Services. We're based here in Dublin, in Ireland. and we are part of the bigger project, the Right to Connect project, with EASPD and 10 other partners. Can you see our slides okay?
Yes, we can see the first one.
Is it still on the first one?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So the Right to Connect project, it's with 10 other partners, and the whole idea of it was very similar to the ADILE project. It's to remove barriers to learning and skills development related to digital accessibility, and to develop the knowledge and understanding of how best to support, again, adults with intellectual disability on expressing active citizenship through digital communication. So it also provides an opportunity, our project, for the adults with intellectual disability to become self-advocates and to express themselves on wider societal challenges. So on our Right to Connect project, all of the courses were co-designed by adults with intellectual disabilities across our 5 pilot partners. And the platform was also co-designed with the adults and with our technical partner, Hermes, in Spain. As Tony has mentioned, he's one of the co-designers. And how have you found developing the platform, Tony?
I found them as hard, but it was also easy listening to all the different ideas and working of this, not one brain, but all brains working together of a team.
Of a team, of forming a team with the different partners across Europe.
Greece, Austria, Spain, and Italy, and Austria.
All working together.
All working together.
Yeah. So as part of our project, we also had to start off with questions, find out what people wanted. And with this, we were really lucky to hire a co-researcher, somebody with lived experience of an intellectual disability, who helped us, who was hired on the project to help us to really find out what people wanted.
Yeah. But they all have different ideas and they all have different challenges on the internet. So what we did, we wanted some step-to-step PowerPoints to find out what works, what doesn't work, and simplify and make it easier for people to learn.
Absolutely. But before we got there, we had to get the evidence of why we needed to do exactly that. Here's just a quick video that Patrick, our hired co-designer, has made. Hope you can hear this.
During the Right to Connect project, we will co-design an accessible e-learning website for people with disability to learn how to use digital tools. We want to remove the things that stop people with disabilities to be part of the digital world. As part of this project, I was a co-researcher. I joined the research team and helped with the edit application. This was not an easy task. The application was hard and not accessible. I helped our team to co-design an accessible survey along with the new interview and focus group questions. 10 men and women in St. John of God service will co-design and test the tools created by the whole Right to Connect European team. We used the Engage toolkit that we created to help us to understand inclusive research. Inclusive research as we use it as a guide. We also tried to make the literature review more accessible, but this is not finished. This is the RIX tool I use to create the easy survey. I use pictures, videos, and audio.
The first results from the research project are in, and one of the main barriers to online learning noted by participants across partners is access and logging in.
which is a finding that should be considered for the development of the platform. Barriers to the use of social media and the internet seem to be mostly related to a lack of training for people with intellectual disabilities and the need for more accessible content. Participants want content delivered with image and videos, or image with text, instead of communicating only with text. Participants were not familiar with the accessibility features, and it is hard to imagine themselves using these on their devices.
Thank you for listening to our project info, and
you can get all of our survey results will be on our right2connect.entelus.net website. I'm going to skip over the focus groups and we'll just talk a little bit about co-design. So co-design enables a wide range of people to be creative together and to find solutions to problems. As the trained co-designers, we get to, what do we get to do?
We get to look at each platform.
Yeah, and what else did we get to do?
What we want to do, look at the platform and each step and each challenge.
Absolutely, and we shared all our ideas, and all the co-designers across Europe shared the ideas to the needs and the challenges for what they wanted to build. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And how really important how we can work, learn, and stay connected. So for anybody who is not familiar with co-design, what we've done is we've mapped the 5 steps of co-design onto the 5 steps of design thinking. And we upskilled all of our co-designers and support staff in design thinking methods. And we ran workshops over 12 weeks with the participants to get them ready to be able to create their peer courses to support other people to learn key digital skills.
And we worked 20 weeks with Greece.
20 weeks, yeah, you're right. We worked 20 weeks in partnership with Greece every
Thursday.
Every Thursday, exactly, for about 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours.
Did you learn a lot from the guys in Greece?
Yeah.
What kind of things did you learn?
I learned like they themselves, they have similar problems that we were having.
Yeah.
And it's so, you know.
Were you surprised by that?
I'm surprised, like, probably not only a Greece problem, probably it's a worldwide problem to make things more accessible for all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so these are the 5 steps that we went by. We upskilled our participants in design thinking. We then used the Access Co-Design Toolkit to co-produce the digital courses. We created standard lesson plans. We built them in PowerPoint. So everybody built their lessons, their courses in PowerPoint first. Then we co-designed the e-learning platform and we rebuilt them all in the platform.
Yes.
Was it hard?
No. We had easier skills to easily access abilities.
We did. We used the built-in accessibility on our laptops and our tablets to build it. So that was good. And then, of course, we evaluated the e-learning platform and the courses, and that's still ongoing until the end of the project in March. So we're really lucky to have won the Zero Project Award last year for our co-design toolkit, which was used during the Right to Connect project, which was great. And thank you to all the team at Zero and also, all the team out there. They were really great support to us, and Ashoka as well. So things that we learned, and this has been compiled from all of the co-designers.
We done also with Trizes we did.
With?
Trizes, we done Trizes, like games, the different games, in co-design.
Absolutely. And the games were important, weren't they?
Yeah.
Why were they important?
They're important because just to show like what you can do and make it easier in ways to learn through platforms, formatting things up.
Absolutely. These nice little accessible games that you made on the platform. That was great as well. And there's a list of other things that people said that they learned as well through doing this project. There were challenges. There are a few challenges. Not all of the co-designers' ideas could be created, and so we had to make some compromises, didn't we?
You had to listen to one of your own. I had to see what has the best in there. I said, got or if or does, try to make it a bit better.
Absolutely, yeah. We had to compromise and could we make it a bit better? And what Tony's referring there is to one of the tools we use, which is the I like, I wish, and what if tool. And We're not going to play the video in Madrid. I hear the guys in the ADILE project went to Madrid as well. We went there too, and we had a great time with all the co-designers and with the developers, Hermes, working together. And thank you to St. John of God's in Spain for facilitating that meeting. I'm going to skip over this. Lots of positive impacts from the project as well. And we got to, what were the positives?
The positives are like we're all working of a big massive team and storming ideas.
Storming ideas was a really good one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Also some of the things was about meeting new people.
Meeting new people and making new friends. And that's what I like, is meeting new people, making new friends.
And gaining confidence is often mentioned.
Yeah.
We also developed an accessible competency framework, and it'll be available on our website in digital format as well. And these are all the competencies that have been identified by the co-designers through this project. We've got some rules for co-design. We have to prepare. We've got to think of communication. Empathy is really, really important. Respect, vision.
Because don't solve the problem, listen to the problem.
Yeah, and we have to understand what the problem is first, don't we? Yeah, absolutely. Use of plain language, as I mentioned already today, and providing visuals is really, really important.
Through pictures, audio.
Pictures, audio, and
you know, what's it?
The video?
Videos, yeah.
Yeah, videos were really important for the group as well to make sure. So they produced all their own screen recordings, screenshots of the apps to produce step-by-step instruction on how to use it. One little tip if you are working with co-design is...
There's no or no yeah.
Yes, there's no and yes, but also you don't ask simple questions like do you like or what do you not like. Instead, we ask questions about like what do you think and how do you find. We also, instead of saying I like, if a co-designer or a person you're working with just says I like it, instead we follow up with can you tell me why you like it? Because it's in that why that we really find the really good solutions.
Same with why you don't like it. It's the same thing. Why you don't like the idea, answer why I like the idea.
Exactly, and some of the why nots are as important.
Yeah.
So the other thing then is that we started off with these problem trees that was done with all of the stakeholders. Everything was very visual and everybody was able to follow on with the design thinking tools as we went through the platform. So the men and women, they decided what courses were going to be produced. They ran empathy maps to understand different people's needs, and then they started generating these ideas. Then this is the I like, I wish, and what if. So we don't say any negative. We don't say stuff like I don't like. Instead, we say I wish. So I wish if the passport could meet the criteria and show a tick box, or I wish the search for the course was using emojis. And then the what ifs are those big dream ideas, but we weren't always able to do that. Okay.
It's always the truth idea. Always in the truth, I never know.
In the future, absolutely. In the future, we might be able to do it. So this is Tony made this course in PowerPoint. So he did the first draft in PowerPoint, and then we'll just really quickly slip through here. So you can see it's all step by step. You did everything? You put the pictures in?
Put pictures on, I've done the
text. You recorded your voice?
Yeah.
And we also used AI voices as well on the platform in places. You put the instructional guides in. How did you find it?
I found that easy but hard. So I have to rehearse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to call my voice for.
Especially for making the screen recordings, you have to rehearse it a bit. Yeah, that was great. So there are the step-by-steps, and then this is what the platform actually looks like. And as you can see, all the different courses that the men and women have made, and you can go in and view the course.
More added in the future, don't worry.
Pardon?
There'll be more added in the future.
There'll be more added in the future. Absolutely, Tony. The guys have got lots of new ideas for new courses in the future. So these are some of the top tips for co-design. The top tip is that taking part in co-design can be a bit tricky.
Tricky?
Yeah, but what do we have to do?
Listen.
We have to listen, and we also have to make sure that we're giving really clear explanation and instructions.
And talking one at a time.
Talking one at a time and making sure that everybody knows what their role is. Another top tip is that information should be easy to understand. Efforts must be made to make sure that everybody can understand the information.
Like accessible for all.
Accessible for all. And there must be access to some assistive technology to help us to do this as well. And a huge opportunity for self-improvement. Do you think you learned new skills by doing the Right to Connect?
Yes, definitely. We done a thing called what's it called? I think
the competency framework.
Yeah.
Yes, where you outlined all the different skills and competencies that you've learned. Absolutely. Yeah. So there is other videos, but we'll share them afterwards. If you want to find out more information, you can go to righttoconnect.entlist.net. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony and Sarah. It's really important to know like the ins and outs of co-design and co-creation. I think a lot of us strive to do co-design, but it's quite difficult to know each step of the way how to do it properly. So thank you so much for informing us on how to do so. And it was great to hear insights from Tony as well, who took part in Right to Connect. Sorry to quickly move on, but just to stay on time, I'd like to introduce Janina Arsenieva, sorry if I mispronounced that, who is an e-learning content developer at International Disability Alliance. So if you could introduce yourself, the platform that you're about to launch, and then tell us about the process of developing this online course from the ground up with inclusion and accessibility as key objectives.
Thank you, Catherine. Stellar pronunciation of my name. It's very good. I just wanted to make sure that everybody can see my screen. Mm-hmm. It has the words towards an inclusive online learning experience. So I would like to first introduce the International Disability Alliance for those who don't know us, because we might be a little bit of a different animal than the other organizations that are presented around the table today. We are a global organization of persons with disabilities. We have 14 member organizations all over the world. So in all world's regions, or in most world regions, in, for example, the Pacific region, in South America, in Asia, in Europe, and in other regions. Some of we also have disability-specific organizations such as Down Syndrome International or Inclusion International. And via those organizations, we are represented in Europe. So European region is one of many regions of our organization, but we also work in, globally. And that, I think, makes our challenge of bringing information, bringing learning to people, and also uniting people slightly more challenging, and also maybe also very interesting for that. We started uniting, I'll start differently. One of the big goals of International Disability Alliance is to make sure that the voice of persons with disabilities is heard everywhere. It's heard in political decisions, in decisions that concern persons with disabilities, in decisions that concern employment, education, how the money is spent, how persons with disabilities are included, for example, in humanitarian responses or in conflict situations. And for that, of course, persons with disabilities need to be involved and they need to be consulted. What we have noticed that even when persons with disabilities are consulted and involved, very often there would still be some group of persons, we call it the underrepresented groups. And usually underrepresented groups of persons with disabilities would be persons with intellectual disabilities, very relevant for our discussion today. They can also be deafblind people. They can also be people with disabilities who are poor, who live in poor countries or in poor environments. They can be women with disabilities. They can be persons, for example, who have lived in institutions or who live in institutions currently. And so our goal is to really give voice to those persons with disabilities. And what we started doing, we, a few years ago, started conducting training that we call, has a little bit of a complicated name, called Bridge CRPD SDGs Training Initiative. And that training initiative that specifically targets persons with disabilities from underrepresented groups, the main objective of that training is to make sure that persons with disabilities from underrepresented groups have their voice and they can sit around the table and participate in decision making. So it's a very intense, people say that it's extremely intense training that lasts over, I think, a year and a half altogether. So people come together, people learn about disability rights, people learn about advocacy, and people also exchange between them. We do that in most world countries, particularly in the countries in the global south. And of course, having such training is important because that really serves to make sure that the rights of persons with disabilities are realized in real life, because we all know that nothing about us without us, and that means that persons with disabilities need to be heard. So every learning, every teaching activity that we do at the International Disability Alliance has the main objective, the main objective of it is to make sure that persons with disabilities participate. The trademark of that training is inclusive facilitation, which means that persons from underrepresented groups are not only the learners, but they're also trainers. We have trainers with intellectual disabilities. We have trainers who are deafblind. We have trainers who have multiple disabilities. We have trainers who communicate with only eye movement, for example. And that, of course, means that we have, that training is accompanied with an army of support staff. We have sign language interpreters, we have personal assistants, we have illustrators, we have a lot of people that really make sure that we are able to provide inclusive environment for everybody. Because International Disability Alliance is a pan-disability organization, means we represent different disabilities. Of course, we've realized, as it's very obvious, that we need to take that training online to the extent possible, because if we continue only doing it in person, we will not be able to reach to as many people around the world as possible. So we decided, as many of you that decision was made faster because of the pandemic, we decided to take some of the training online, and hence we started developing our online training platform. I have to say from the outset that this is a new project for us, so we really are in development now. And even, for example, finding the platform that was technically the most accessible, that was technically the most inclusive, and that was the most user-friendly took us a couple of years. That was before I joined the organization. And so today, the online training platform has some internal courses for the International Disability, for the people who work at the International Disability Alliance. We have some courses that have been developed by our members. We also use it to facilitate the exchange and storing of information in the organization. And we are very pleased to say that our first thematic course on the rights of persons with disabilities will be launched in a few weeks, probably before the end of January. That course will be first launched internally, so to members of AIDA and to our national members. So, for example, if your organization is member of either Inclusion Europe or, for example, European Blind Union or the International Disability or the European Disability Forum, you will have access to that course. And we decided not to take it easy. We decided to be ambitious, just like the UN Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was. And our first course was on equal recognition before the law. on a specific article of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities that is extremely, extremely relevant. It's particularly relevant for persons with intellectual disabilities. So I'll first describe very briefly what the course looks like, what it has, and then I will wrap up with presenting something that we have learned and also something that we are still learning, and hopefully, you know, maybe we'll learn something together. So this is a beginner level course. It means that the course, that you don't need any specific background in disability rights or in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to participate in the course. The course is presented in plain language, in plain English. So we really made many reviews of the course in order to make it as accessible as possible. The course has been reviewed by a focus group that is very representative. I'll talk about this later. And right now, it has 3 simple modules on various issues relating to the issues. It has a practical assignment, and it has supporting modules such as the glossary or the word bank, and it has some kind of introductory words from the International Disability Alliance. At this stage, and this is one of the challenges that we have experienced, we have decided to provide I don't want to call it a summary. I would like to call it an introduction to the course in an easy to read version. Even though the whole course is in plain language, we felt that we needed an additional step to make for those who need it, to have the course in easy to read version. We also encourage the learner to take the course with a support person if this is something that they find useful. So the course has various learning tools, because we have to address the learning requirements of a very broad group of people. It can be people with intellectual disabilities. It can be people who are deaf. It can be people who are blind. It can be people who have psychosocial disabilities or other disabilities. And that, of course, makes the diversity of learning tools and accessibility tools also very important. So it will have on the screen, I just have a snapshot or the screenshot of a page. It will have some text, very short paragraphs, very simple words. It will have some videos. And on this screen, you see a snapshot of the video, the close-up of a person. You can see the sign language interpreter superimposed on the screen, and you also see the captions in English. And I have to say, when we produced the accessibility features of the course, we always use, for example, the sign language or the captions. We used the services that are run and provided by deaf sign language interpreters. So we always try to really involve persons with disabilities as providers of support services. It's very important. We have some reading assignments, and here is a second challenge I would like to introduce to you, is that very often when we want to refer to external reading assignment, it will not always be available in easy to read language. For example, if we want to use an academic article, or if we want to use a report, usually it will not be available in plain language, and even less so in an easy to read language. So we had to diversify the availability of those learning tools to mix up different materials to make sure that everybody has something for them. We also have a case study or a few case studies where persons are put in a real life situation of a person with a disability, and they are invited to use their knowledge that they've received in the course to make suggestions on how the person's problem can be solved in real life. And of course, we have some self-assessment where people can check their knowledge. We don't have any graded quizzes because we felt that was not really the purpose of this particular training, but we allowed people to to go back and to check the knowledge as they see fit. So what do we know? What do we know now about from this experience of putting together our first course? The first lesson learned is that it takes longer than we think. So we got the online platform quite a while ago, but it's sort of coming up with accessible, inclusive content that as many people are as happy as possible is actually pretty long journey. So the course has taken a long time to get ready, and it's also requires, you know, quite a generous budget. The course, and any accessible inclusive course probably will be more expensive than most people think. In part because of if you want to make it really as accessible as necessary. We also felt that at the beginning, we were not very clear about the target audience and objectives. First, our target audience, well, all members of the disability movement in the world. And why do we wanted them to take the course? So that they knew about their rights. But then we really had to narrow down the target audience and the learning objectives that we had about this course in order to provide really tailored learning experience for people. And we feel that's why I said that this is a beginner level course. In the future, we might provide a more advanced level course. We will have different learning objectives. But right now, in order to make it manageable, realistic, and as clear as possible, we had to narrow down the target audience and the objectives. So another lesson learned is that it's very important to include learners from low resource environment. This argument may be less relevant in the European context, although I don't think it's altogether irrelevant. But for example, what about people who don't have regular access to internet? Or people who cannot go on website and start downloading heavy materials or watch a lot of videos, or people maybe who cannot watch videos at all because they're using an old computer in the library and that they don't have headphones. These are all very realistic scenarios that we're experiencing. Or for example, people who are only able to use the computer for learning for half an hour a day. So we have to manage the length and the depth of the course. It was also very important to test run with a representative focus group. And that's why I was very happy to hear about co-production presentation. I've learned so much, and I will definitely be following up on that presentation. That was very useful. For example, when we did the test run, we realized that the course was not representative of some groups of people. People said, well, actually, you know, the issue you're talking about doesn't look like this in the context of my country or my continent. Like, you need to really change some exercises. You need to make your visuals more accessible. You really need to have good you need to make the course really relevant and relatable for the broad group that you are targeting. And also, finally, we realized that the technical nuances are also something that is extremely important to take into consideration. And that is what I said about it's taking longer than you hoped and it's costing more than you hoped. And finally, 3 points, and this is my last slide, what we still don't know. We still don't know whether we're there yet on universal design for online learning. Today, we heard a lot of very useful information about the project, the outcomes for online learning for persons with intellectual disabilities. But I would like to continue questioning ourselves. Would we want to have a curriculum and also a learning approach that is broader than that? Because, I mean, persons with intellectual disabilities could also, for example, be persons who use sign language, or they might have a family member who is blind. And generally, the disability community is so extremely diverse. Would we want to have a learning experience that is inclusive of all? Is that even possible? Is it even realistic? Is it realizable at this stage right now? We don't know that. So at the International Disability Alliance, we're doing a whole lot of experimentation, a whole lot of innovation to understand whether we are able to design a course that is equally accessible for all and inclusive of all? I don't have an answer to that question now. And in the same vein, is it okay to have parallel content? I think that, you know, should be as inclusive as we want. It should be one content for all. But we realize that right now we simply don't have enough knowledge, and that's why you saw that in our first ever course we do have a specific summary in easy to read language. Our preference would have been to have one content for all, but we felt that at this stage we don't yet know how that can be addressed without compromising on depth and quality and expectations of everyone. And the final question that I don't have the answer to now is English as global as we think it is. It clearly wasn't in the context of the project that was of the ADILE project that did manage to translate some of the outputs into the project languages, which is extremely welcome. In the context of an online course that an organization such as the International Disability Alliance would like to offer to its membership, English is clearly not a global language, because we are right now excluding all of South America. We're excluding a lot of countries, even within Europe. So the ambition would be to continue diversifying the language offer of what we have, to continue using the AI, artificial intelligence for that purpose, and also relying on the volunteers who would be available to make that learning content accessible for more people, particularly for those who are not speakers of the large kind of global languages. So I'm going to stop here. I know I provided a very different perspective than what a lot of European organizations are concerned with, but I hope it's sort of like maybe still a relevant reflection for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janina. I think like the global perspective is so important. Like you said, when content is so Eurocentric or even anglicized to the extent that so many people, so many parts of the world can't access the accessibility that we have researched and put so much effort into, then it's just a shame. Okay, sorry to move on very quickly, but now I will introduce Luca, one of the project partners on the ADILE project, who worked closely with the web developer who created the ADILE online platform. He's the project manager and consultant at Phase 3. And I'll just start with a question. So what was it like to work with a web developer on making the interface accessible for persons with intellectual disabilities? What was your experience?
It was at first quite challenging, and first because you need also to filter and mediate between the developer, who is a technical person, and partners who were just kind of asking all the possible features to be included in the platform, which I mean sometimes is hard to understand. I mean that one simple request, how much it entails in terms of coding and working on the platform. So that was, let's say, the hardest part of the job was to mediate between the developer and the partnership.
Mm-hmm. And what did you manage to find, like a web developer that had already worked on accessibility? What was it like trying to source a web developer who could work and create a platform like this?
Well, first, our developer, Francesco, had already experience on that, as well as of the graphic designer who involved in the project, Umberto. So they had experience. So we went right to them to ask them to work on the ADILE project first. And then I think from their point of view, it wasn't really an issue to develop kind of accessible content and accessible platform. It was rather to try to translate the request from the partnership, from the user in the end, into something that was functioning properly and effective for the end users.
Yeah. And can you highlight some of the key technical aspects to keep in mind with regard to accessibility of online tools? What was something that came up quite often when you were working with him?
Yeah, sure. I had a short presentation, if you like, that I can share.
Yeah,
a
for
few
sure. Sorry,
few points.
apologies.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
I think you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Just a second. So sorry, this is, yeah. So going for the first one, I think that the first, actually, the first recommendation that I got from Francesco when we start working was not a technical, let's say, recommendation. It was that when we started, as Enrica told you in the beginning, that this old project started from the pandemic, and when Controvento was trying to deliver educational activities to people with disabilities, the issue was that the pandemic happened out of a sudden, and so they were using Zoom, which was very good for communicating, but not really for learning activities. So I say, okay, we need something that could be helpful, not just for the pandemic, but also for reaching people that maybe are living in a rural area or, far away from the daily center. And so we started working from there. And so we started from the need and how the professionals and the end user told us this new platform should be. And then the second point that we realized that in terms of development, everything is possible. So it's rather on the front end, so on the graphic design, the layout, that end user are will access for the learning activities. And so this has the most impact on the accessibility. And we started from the web accessibility guidelines as a reference. Then when we met in Madrid with the educator, we found out that some of, the recommendation we had there were to be adapted according to the target group. I remember, for example, the color, one of the background color was yellow at first, and then we kind of slightly changed that. And of course, as it was mentioned before, colors, font, and size were the main aspects. So the graphic design is very much central and fundamental in order to make the platform accessible. Usually that what Francesco does when he starts developing, following the requirement from a group of person or anyone, he has to make some guesses. And for this particular experience, making guesses was not the right approach. So we had always to base our choices on functionality and effectiveness. So listening to the presentation before from Sarah and Tony, they tackle the issues that login and registration, which might be sometimes a bit tricky for users. And for ADILE at this stage, the solution we found is the login, let's say, and the registration phase to be filtered by educators. In this way, we kind of overcome some of the issues we had. And there are other few examples on that. And usability should always prevail on aesthetics. Sometimes you will see later on if you would like to join the breakout room on the ADILE platform, how the platform, the front end looks quite simple, but that's something that you need to take into account. It has to be accessible, not beautiful. So that's the point. And adjustment, that's something that we listen, I think in all the presentation, you need to involve the end users, listen to them and make adjustment. And at the end, and I think Hazel mentioned that how we try to include all the recommendation we got from the students and the educators. The audio function, for example, was left out, but that's how it works. So you need at the end after testing to make adjustment. And I think that the adjustment is a kind of never-ending process that you always need to improve the platform. And I think, yes, those were the, let's say, the recommendation I got from Francesco from the, let's say, it was more about the process. I tried to keep them quite, let's say, practical. And you will see later how they were translated into reality with the platform.
Thank you so much, Luca. Yeah, I think when it comes to the technical aspects and accessibility, it's always just more important to go with the feedback that we get from the user. And also, just because it's not aesthetically pleasing, it does not mean that it's not accessible, which is, I think, a major pitfall that a lot of developers fall into. So thank you so much for giving your insights on the technical side. Okay, so now I think we will move on to the breakout rooms, as Luca mentioned. We have three main breakout rooms, and that basically consists, one is with Luca, and you'll be taken through the accessible online learning platform that was developed by the ADILE project, and you'll see how people use the platform from a learner perspective, but also on the back end as well. So how it works with modifying the content and what the user interface kind of looks like. And then we'll have Kalyan Farron from EASPD, the e-learning officer, who will be presenting the Knowledge Hub, the EASPD Knowledge Hub, which is basically a resource center, like an information point for all things related to disability. It could be platforms, MOOCs, research, and documents that have been made available. And then we have Jesus from Foundation Juan Suedad, sorry for the pronunciation, and he will be presenting the Right to Connect online e-learning platform. So yeah, I think Rachel, I think we're ready to have the breakout rooms. And you can go into any breakout room that you want. But towards the end, if we see that there are quite mismatched numbers, we might move some participants around.
So hopefully now you can already, maybe there's a pop-up that you can see and you can move yourself to the breakout rooms.
Yeah. So Luca, Cal, and Jesus. Yes.
I cannot see any pop-up, Catherine. I don't know
if you click on the three dots on the bottom of the screen, and there should be there
I have as a three
rooms.
option.
Yeah.
I can only see record, question and answer, and subtitles.
Is there three dots?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, undo the ellipses. I only have record on this computer and captions, unfortunately.
Same, record and captions as well.
Some people. I can assign to rooms, but it will be random. Oh. So there's nothing on the rest of the toolbar that shows the. A couple of people have moved already. Okay, I'll start moving you now already. Sarah, do you want to go to Right to Connect now?
Yes, please.
Oh, here we go. Right to Connect now. Ah, you're still here. I thought you were already gone. Sorry. I can't seem to find you in the list. Why can I see you and not?
That's strange.
And you can't see anywhere the.
1 second. Apps, resources. Raise hand, reactions, backstage. No, maybe it's the version of Zoom I'm using. Well, yeah, it's not an option for me to join.
And I can't. Why? You're not. I can't.
Do you want me to leave and come back? Maybe as a...
hang on a minute.
Okay.
You're not in my lit. Maybe it is your version of Zoom. Yeah, try leaving and coming back.
Okay, do you want me to come back as a presenter or through the normal link?
Presenter.
Okay, one sec.
Cal, I can't see you. Do it here.
Okay, cool. Do you want to bring them back to me? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, stay in here and I'll close that room.
Perfect.
Here, yeah. Yes. Okay, so you can start your presentation. And then people can either move to another one. Janina, where do you want to go? Which group? Janina, do you want to go to Pacific group? Okay, Gal, then I think you can get started and we do it here. And then people who are here can...
Okay. I presume people are coming back into the room now. Is that correct, Rachel? Or back to the main room?
There's people here already. You have,
perfect. Okay.
You can't see them.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for that minor technical issue. You would think as the e-learning officer, I would be able to get myself into a breakout room, but unfortunately not. But we adapt and we overcome. As I think Kat already introduced me, but my name is Callie-Ann Farron. I'm the e-learning officer here at EASPD. So that means at any online educational initiatives that EASPD is involved in through our European project work, I help support each project. So I develop and build mostly MOOCs, massive open online courses for those projects. So I think the idea we had is that I'll take you on a tour of the EASPD Knowledge Hub, just to show you around the platform, the different resources and online courses that are there. And then I can talk about some of the courses for persons with disabilities that we also have on the platform. So I will share my screen now. Bear with me 1 second. Hopefully this works, considering it didn't work the last time. There, so yeah, hopefully people can see this. So this is the landing page of the EASPD Knowledge Hub. So just to talk a little bit about what that is. So the EASPD Knowledge Hub is an open access online educational resource. So it's a learning platform that brings together the educational initiatives and educational resources that EASPD and their members produce. So as I said, it's open access, it's free to use and anyone can use it. The only thing one has to do is to make a login where we just ask for a name and an email address for you. The reason that we have that is to avoid any kind of phishing. It's just a cybersecurity measure. So there are two main sections of the Knowledge Hub. So when you go in, you can see the two main sections here. The two main sections are the e-learning. So that's where we find the MOOCs, the educational courses, and the e-library. So the e-library is the second side. That is a list of resources. So I can take people through both of them. So when you're on the hub and you click e-learning, you'll be taken through to a section of all the MOOCs or online courses that EASPD has created. Just to say that I guess as an online learning platform, the Knowledge Hub is slightly different to the other ones we may have seen today, because I guess the target audience, shall we say, is a little bit different, because EASPD is an organisation that represents service providers. The vast majority of these courses are aimed at people working in services for persons with disabilities. Now, that doesn't mean to say they won't have a disability themselves, but they are kind of geared towards different professionals working in the field of disability. So that could be anything from a care worker to a speech and language therapist, any kind of service provider that works with persons with disabilities. So as I said, section 1 is e-learning. We can go through some of the courses we have here. I'll go through one of the other courses in more detail, maybe in part 2. So yeah, this is the first section where you can see a lot of the different online learning courses that one can take. And then the second section that Kat mentioned, I think a little bit earlier, is the e-library section. So the e-library section is more of a catalogue of resources that are developed from projects that we do in EASPD or that are developed by the EASPD consortium. So it's there are hundreds and hundreds of resources here, but it could be on any kind of different area of work that we work on, and it can be thematicized by a number of ways. So you can go on to the platform and say you want to look for, first of all, you can search by category. So if you search by category, you can see all the different areas of work that EASPD works on, be that social services, person-centered technology, digitalization, etc., etc. And you can also search by keywords. So if you're looking for, let's say, a specific country's context, you could look, for example, for Greece or Romania or wherever the case may be. You can also search by keyword, and that can bring you any information that we have or any resources that we have on that country. I should say as well, I just realized we're not in a breakout room technically, so it's a little bit less interactive than I'd hope, but if anyone has any questions that they'd like to add, please feel free to put them in the chat and I can come back to them towards the end of the session, if that's okay. So I thought I would go through maybe some of the accessibility features and how the platform caters to persons with disabilities specifically as well. So I guess the first thing I wanted to say, and it kind of touches off the last presentation we had, or one of the presentations, excuse me, about universal design. That's something that I, as a developer, and I think the platform really tries to bear in mind when, first of all, designing the platform more broadly, and then also designing the individual courses that we have therein. So one of the features that we have on the platform is actually this accessibility widget here. So the little green man at the top bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you click this, a number of accessibility features will come up so that you can use these features to make the platform more suited to your individual needs as a learner. So this could be highering or lowering the contrast. So if this makes it easier for one to read, dark contrast, etc. You can highlight links to text. This is particularly helpful if one is using a screen reader, for example. You can change the size and spacing. You can hide images, again, for a screen reader. You can make the writing dyslexia friendly. And a number of other features that kind of support people to make the actual content of the platform a little bit more accessible. One of the other things that we try to do in terms of, again, universal design, I think, when we talk about the needs of learners and access and things like that, a lot of the specific things you can do, people would hopefully be kind of, you would hope to kind of be common sense. Sometimes the things that we do that we think are for persons with disabilities or disabled learners are actually beneficial to society as a whole or learners as a whole. So things like ensuring all the videos we use are subtitled, ensuring that we have Word versions of the files that we upload, as well as PDF versions. And just ensuring that there's multiple ways of viewing the content. Another thing we tried to do, and kind of looking at universality from other senses, that we really try and have a very representative swathe in the imagery we use, different representations of disability and ethnicity and gender, just going back to that, if you can't see it, you can't be it model of looking at things. So again, moving on to some of I wanted to kind of look at more specific examples of ways in which we try and design or develop the educational courses we have that are specifically for persons with disabilities. I should say at the start, it's an incredibly collaborative effort. So I, as a as the e-learning officer, work directly with the consortium, who are generally speaking often service providers, and they are working directly with persons with disabilities. So there are elements of kind of co-production and co-design involved in that work. I wanted to maybe just to give maybe two examples of projects that we're working on at the moment. They're currently still in development, so I cannot show you very specific examples, but I can maybe talk about some of the projects and how that co-design went and how that kind of had an impact on the development of the courses. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Response. So Response is a project that EASPD is involved in, and it's for responsive services to address gender-based violence against women with disabilities. So it aims to make fundamentally gender-based violence services more accessible to women with intellectual disabilities through, by and large, the training of service providers. So one of the kind of outputs of that project is a MOOC. And that MOOC, there are different sections for each. There are 3 different courses or modules of the MOOC. One is for people who work in domestic violence services. One is for those who work in mainstream services, so services who work directly with persons with disabilities. And the final one is for women with disabilities specifically. So I guess one of the things I noticed while working on this project is that the idea that we would be developing this program while the main target group is service providers, it was outlined in the application, and it was very clear from the start that there would be a module aimed towards women with disabilities, and that was very clear in the other outputs of the project. So the way in which the collaborative process usually works is I work with the consortium on content development, and I use that to build the MOOC. So in this case, there were a number of materials already developed that were made with women with disabilities in mind. For example, there's plain English versions of all the content that has been produced through the project already developed. So that was, in that way, that process was that made it kind of easier for me to make the 3rd module for women with disabilities, knowing that quality, easy to read material was already there. Also, before the content was developed into a MOOC, it was an in-person or like a workshop structure where women with disabilities were actually consulted on the outputs of the project and how they were developed. And off the back of that workshop, and in collaboration with the women with disabilities who did the workshops, they're developing case studies and scenarios that will eventually be included in the MOOC. So again, looking at that kind of co-production with women with disabilities, making sure that the examples and the learning content that we're using is relevant and appropriate. So yeah, that is the example I wanted to give of Response. The second example of a project I wanted to do is PWIDs. So PWIDs is another project that EASPD is taking part in, the aim of which is to develop a European strategy to address the skill needs, and particularly the digital skill needs, in the work integration social enterprises, so WISE's sector. So again, in this project, 3 different MOOCs, online courses with 3 different audiences, are being developed. 2 are for professionals working in WISEs. So one is for kind of managerial level, and one is for support worker level. And the final one is for workers with support needs. That will include persons with disabilities, but it'll also include different, it's not for persons with disabilities only, people, for example, early school leavers or with limited digital skills. So yeah, the example we're using for that, again, the curricula that we are using has been piloted and tested by people with disabilities through a piloting process with the consortium. And I guess one of the ways I wanted to show how we think about the ways in which the module is accessible and appropriate is that one topic, or one way in which we're trying to do that in this case, is having different instructional levels for the module. So for example, in the module for the managerial level, that module is kind of the purpose of that module is that it is completely for independent learning. So the person who is doing that module does that completely alone, be that at home or in their place of work, and it's completely self-taught. And that's kind of purely independent learning. For the module for persons with disabilities, we've tried to develop a kind of multi-layered structure to the module. So while if they want to and are able to, can do it completely independently, we've developed structures within the module that means it can be done as a hybrid, so combined with an in-person class, or it can be done in tangent or parallel with a supporter. So if you want, or if that person would benefit from someone helping them with the course, there are different kind of activities and different levels to activities that can incorporate that kind of support as well. I think that's kind of all I had to show you in terms of the different aspects of the Knowledge Hub. I can share a link to the chat to the Knowledge Hub as well, and maybe my email in the chat, or you can go out in the follow-up email. And again, we're always looking for different resources and different activities that members are doing. I think the Knowledge Hub is a really good place to share your work and kind of get a kind of European audience for the work that you do. So I'd be happy to liaise with anyone who has resources or materials that they think could be of use. Thank you for listening to me monologue there for a bit. Apologies that the breakout function wasn't as interactive.
Sorry, Gab. Okay, all right, closing all the rooms.
So, I think we're.
Sorry, you're back.
Yeah, we're back on the.
It was a bit. You're cut off.
All right, I think. Yeah, this is everyone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much all for coming, to the speakers who gave us so many insights into accessibility and online learning platforms today. Your presentations and insights are invaluable, and I'm really certain that all of us have a lot to take away from everything you've said, everything you've presented, and the presentation of resources that you've provided in the breakout rooms. Yeah, it's been really wonderful to be able to talk with one another and to learn more about accessible online learning platforms. And so thank you to everyone who registered and attended this event. It's been really great to see so many people interested in making distance learning more accessible for all, and to kind of make a difference within inclusive education as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And I hope that from the ADILE platform and the project, that you've been able to take something away from that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.